Imagine waking up one morning to find out that the global temperature had dropped by just 1 degree Celsius. Imagine waking up one morning to find out that the global temperature had dropped by just 1 degree Celsius. At first, it might sound like a small, almost meaningless change. After all, how much difference can a single degree make? But in the delicate balance of Earth's climate system, even the tiniest shifts can ripple across ecosystems, human societies, and the stability of our planet. To understand the impact, we need to remember that the Earth's climate is like a finely tuned machine. Average global temperature has already risen about 1.2 degrees Celsius since pre-industrial times, and that small rise has triggered melting glaciers, rising sea levels, and stronger storms. Wow. Imagine reversing that by cooling the planet by 1 degree. The consequences would not be the opposite of warming. They would bring their own set of challenges. One of the first and most noticeable effects would be on polar regions. A 1 degree drop globally would strengthen Arctic and Antarctic ice sheets, slowing down melting. Sea ice could expand during winters, creating more reflective surfaces that bounce sunlight back into space. At first glance, this sounds like good news for the fight against climate change, but it would also mean shifts in ocean currents and weather patterns. A cooler Earth would also change rainfall distribution. Some regions might experience more stable weather, while others could face prolonged droughts. For example, parts of Africa and South Asia that rely heavily on monsoon rains could see those rains weaken, leading to water scarcity, reduced crop yields, and food insecurity. The balance of agriculture worldwide would be disrupted. The balance of agriculture worldwide would be disrupted. Speaking of agriculture, crops are extremely sensitive to temperature changes. A global cooling of just 1 degree might extend growing seasons in some areas, like Northern Europe or Canada, but shorten them in others. Staple crops like rice, wheat, and corn could face declining yields in tropical regions, where even a slight cooling could reduce the warmth needed for their growth. This would shift global food supply chains and put additional pressure on already vulnerable populations. Another subtle but critical effect would be on the oceans. Cooler global temperatures mean oceans absorb less heat, which would affect marine ecosystems. Coral reefs, which are currently bleaching under rising temperatures, might temporarily benefit. However, cooler oceans also slow down the circulation of nutrients, altering fish populations and the livelihoods of millions who depend on them. Humans would feel the impact in their daily lives too. Heating demands would increase in colder regions, driving up energy use during winter. Countries in Europe, North America, and East Asia might spend more on heating, affecting economies and energy infrastructure. At the same time, diseases that thrive in warmer climates, like malaria or dengue fever, might decline in some areas, but cold-related illnesses could rise in others. Biodiversity across the globe would face yet another shakeup. Animals adapted to warmer habitats, such as tropical birds, reptiles, or insects, might struggle to survive. Migration patterns would shift, with many species forced to move closer to the equator in search of stable temperatures. Forests could expand in some regions, but shrink in others, disrupting entire ecosystems. Forests could expand in some regions, but shrink in others, disrupting entire ecosystems. Another area of concern would be natural disasters. While a cooler Earth might mean fewer intense hurricanes fueled by hot oceans, it could also lead to harsher winters, more frequent snowstorms, and deadly cold waves. Infrastructure unprepared for extreme cold could suffer, and human casualties could increase in areas unused to such conditions. Economic impacts would be global and uneven. Some countries might benefit from expanded agricultural lands and reduced summer heat waves, while others could lose their harvests, fisheries, or tourism industries. Insurance companies, governments, and businesses would need to adapt rapidly to shifting risks and demands. From a geopolitical perspective, a cooler climate could spark new tensions. Countries in colder latitudes might thrive, attracting migration from warmer but newly unstable regions. Resource competition could intensify as farmland shifts northward and some southern regions become less productive. Climate refugees, once expected mostly due to warming, could also emerge due to cooling. Interestingly, lowering the global temperature by 1 degree might also slow down the melting of permafrost. This frozen ground holds enormous amounts of methane, a potent greenhouse gas. By keeping permafrost intact, we could potentially prevent vast emissions of methane into the atmosphere. But this benefit would be offset by other destabilizing effects in ecosystems and human systems. Some scientists argue that such a cooling could mimic a mini ice age. Historical records, like the Little Ice Age between the 14th and 19th centuries, showed how even small drops in global temperature brought famines, social unrest, and population shifts. The lesson is clear. Climate is deeply connected to human history and stability. Ultimately, a drop of 1 degree Celsius might sound like relief in today's warming world. But the truth is more complicated. It would not undo climate change neatly. Instead, it would create a new climate reality, with winners and losers, challenges and opportunities. The planet's systems are too interconnected for such a shift to be simple. So what if global temperature dropped by 1 degree Celsius? The answer is that life on Earth would adapt, but not without disruption. Humanity would once again face the test of resilience, proving that even the smallest changes in our planet's thermostat can reshape the world in ways we cannot ignore.